Fire and Iron is a long-form exploration of mature masculinity through the lens of those four virtues. We will spend serious time on each virtue, what it is, what it looks like when it's embodied well, what it looks like when it's absent or distorted. Fire and Iron. The blacksmith doesn't ruin iron with fire. He uses the fire to make the iron into something greater. The fire reveals what's already there. It removes the impurities, makes the metal workable, renders it capable of holding an edge. The fire doesn't create the iron already exists, but without the fire it just sits there, inert, unrealized, a lump of potential that never becomes anything useful. That's what this show is about, not building a man from scratch, but forging what's already there. The image has roots going deep. In the Christian tradition I come from, the image of fire and iron together carry a lot of freight. But you don't need any particular tradition to recognize that the forge is an apt description of what it takes to become the man you're capable of being. Heat, pressure, patience, repetition, and someone who knows what he's doing on the other end of the hammer. That's the work this show is about. I'm Father Michael Butler. I've been an Orthodox Christian priest for 31 years. I have a doctorate in church history and patristics, an undergraduate degree in archetypal psychology, and in what I will admit is a fairly unusual combination, I've competed as an amateur bodybuilder and won my class at the state level 5 times. I'm also a pastoral psychologist, which means I've spent 3 decades sitting with men at every stage and in every condition of their lives, thriving, failing, rebuilding, stuck, searching. I'm 65 years old. I retired from full-time parish ministry in January of 26, and I'm now running a men's coaching practice under the name Average to Alpha. The coaching integrates classical virtue ethics, the masculine archetypes described by Robert Moore, king, warrior, magician, and lover, Orthodox spirituality, and the hard-won practical wisdom of 3 decades in the confessional and in the gym. At 49, I had my own reckoning. Not a dramatic collapse, though there was a moment of that too, but a slower, harder confrontation with the distance between how I was performing and who I actually was. What followed was a very deliberate rebuilding. New practices, new patterns, a different relationship with my own passivity and my own fear. I'm not here as someone who's arrived. I'm here as someone who's lived through the forge and want to walk alongside men who are in it. 2 kinds of men tend to find a show like this. The first is the younger man, late 20s, early 30s, who is capable, is driven, who may have already done well by most measures, but who has the uncomfortable sense that he's been running somebody else's script. He's somewhere between late adolescence and early adulthood. He's not a kid anymore, but some parts of adulting he still hasn't tacked down yet. What he knows is that the next step isn't obvious, and that the things that got him here are clearly not the things that'll get him to where he actually wants to go. The second kind of man who tends to find a show like this is the man in midlife, 40s, 50s, who has already built something, a career, a reputation, a family, maybe even some wealth. He's standing in the middle of what he's built, and he is asking, quietly, usually to himself, sometimes in the middle of the night, whether it was the right thing to do, whether there is a second chapter, whether the man he has become is the man he meant to become. I'm speaking to both kinds of men because in 30 years of pastoral work, I found that the questions are the same for both groups. The stakes are calibrated differently, sure. The urgency feels different. But underneath both is the same question. Who am I really? And who am I becoming? The fact that you're here, that you clicked on something called Fire and Iron and stayed past the title, that may already tell you something. A word about where this content comes from, because I think it matters. Everything I teach is grounded in the classical virtue tradition, specifically the 4 cardinal virtues of courage, self-control, prudence, and justice. These are not uniquely Christian. They come from Aristotle, from the Stoics, and from the whole stream of ancient reflection on what makes a fully functioning human being and a flourishing life. What the Christian tradition adds, and what I find compelling as an Orthodox priest, is the insistence that these virtues are not imposed from the outside. They are native to us. St. Maximus the Confessor puts it this way: the virtues are natural to the soul. The virtuous man is not some kind of impossible ideal or aspirational something or another. Rather, he is a man as he should be naturally. It's the vices. They're unnatural. Distortions of who we were created to be. They drag us down from whom we could be. They make us less. St. Ambrose of Milan, writing in the 4th century, describes these 4 virtues as the hinges, caudes in Latin, hence cardinal virtues, hinges on which turn everything else a man might become. St. John of Damascus in the 8th century says that they are the foundational virtues on which all of the other virtues are built, including faith, hope, and love. That's my theological framework, and I'll draw on it throughout the show. When I do, I'll say so, and you don't need to share it to benefit from this material. But it's where I stand, and I'd rather be direct about that than pretend to a neutrality that I don't have. Fire and Iron is a long-form exploration of mature masculinity through the lens of those 4 virtues. We will spend serious time on each virtue: what it is, what it looks like when it's embodied well, what it looks like when it's absent or distorted. We'll use Moore's masculine archetypes, king, warrior, magician, and lover, as a map to the psychological territory. Some episodes will stand alone, some will run in a short series when a topic warrants the depth. Every episode will include a reflection exercise, not as homework, but as an invitation to work on yourself in real time rather than just think about it. What you will not find here are easy answers, a formula, or the promise that 6 weeks of the right morning routine will make you a different man. The Forge doesn't work that way. I've watched men try to shortcut it for 30 years. It cannot be shortcut. What I can offer is a framework that holds up well over time, grounded in 2.5 millennia of thinking about who a man actually is and what he's made for, delivered by someone who has tested it on himself first, and then with the men he's walked alongside. 1 episode a week, 12 to 15 minutes, that's the commitment I'm making, and the one I'm asking from you. Before the next episode, I want you to finish a sentence. Not a reading assignment, not a to-do item. A single sentence completed honestly. Find a quiet moment and finish this. The man I know I'm capable of being would... The man I know I'm capable of being would... Don't give me the noble answer. Give me the true one. Write it down if you can. Drop it in the comments if you want to. What comes up is the compass by which we'll be orienting our time together. Subscribe here to the podcast if you would, please, so you don't miss it. If you can think of another man who might enjoy it, send it to him too. And if you like what you're hearing, subscribe to my newsletter as well, because I do more than just a podcast. Information for that is in the show notes below. I'll see you next week. The Forge is open.